Okay, congratulations. You've finished your medicine wheel. You've colored in the yellow, the red, and the black, and we've just simply left the white space white on this thing here. What I want to talk about next is some more to do with a little bit of layers work. Now remember, your circles layer is locked, and it should be at the very, very top. So again, if I take the circles layer and I drag it down, and let's say I just put it underneath the red, so not here, because that's on top of the red. You want to go here where the blue line is underneath the layer, between the yellow and the red layers, and I let it go. You can see that the red doesn't have that clean line like the yellow does, because circles is on top of the yellow but underneath the red, so you can't see it because it's underneath the red there. When I bring it back above that layer, bam, that's when you get that nice clean line right there. So that's why we do it that way. Put circles right at the top. Same with lines. We'll keep our lines. That's these lines here, right at the top there. Yellow, red, and black are all on their own layers. Now this is important because you want to make sure that you can manipulate your button design in various ways and any way that you like. I want to bring your attention now to the little eyeball here. If I hover over top of this icon, it says toggles visibility. So if I click this eyeball and the eyeball's gone, I cannot see the black layer. The black layer still exists, it's just not visible because I've turned its visibility off. If I turn it back on, bam, it's on there. So you can do that with any layer. This is going to be a helpful tool in identifying what you're manipulating when you start to draw things. If you're unsure about where something is, you can start toggling different layers on and off to find out what piece of the drawing or piece of the design you've made looks like. So that's going to be a very, very helpful tool there. For our next button, or our next 5 buttons, you can design them with anything you like. I wanted you to just understand basic lines and coloring with the paintbrush for the start of your thing. That's why we did the medicine wheel. So I'm going to start showing you some shapes now. So again, every time you do anything, you're going to start a new layer. Okay, so this is one button, but this one button is part of circles layer. It has a lines layer, and it has a black, red, and a yellow layer. You can have infinite amounts of layers. It does not matter how many layers you have, but it is a good idea to label them. So with layer 6, I'm going to call this the button 2 background, and I'm going to leave that like that. Button 2 background. I'm going to make sure that I'm selected on that layer. That way anything that I do will only affect this layer. I'm going to take this button, my button 2, and I'm going to give it a yellow background. But I want to be a perfect circle. So I'm going to press and hold on my shapes tool, and I'm going to bring it to the ellipse. Now, if I just click and drag, you can see my circle goes all squishy, and it's not really firm. If you remember with our lines, if you press and hold shift, you can get a perfect circle that way. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to my selection tool, and I'm going to drag it onto my button, and I'm going to use my snaps to help find the center of that tool, of that button, of that circle. Right about there sounds good to me, and I can start to make it a bit bigger. So I want it to be, remember I'm holding shift so that it doesn't go all ovally on me. I want it to be a circle. We're going to make it as big as we can. And it's okay if you go on the outside because our circle layer is on the top. So as long as we're covering our circle, it's okay. So I think I like the look of that. I'm on this layer. I'm selected, selection tool, on the circle. I'm going to change the properties of that circle now. So anytime you use any of these tools, you can effectively change them in the Properties tool. A stroke, when you're dealing with a shape like a triangle or a circle or a square, is the outline. For this example, I don't want a stroke, so I'm going to click on that and I'm going to take the stroke right off. But what I do want is a fill, and I'd like to fill it in yellow, just like that. Well, that says green. Oh, that does say yellow. Great. Perfect. So that's what I want for that circle there. So this layer here is my button 2 background, and it is a layer of circles. Oh, I remember I can toggle it on or off to take a look at it. If I go to my selection tool and I select that layer, I can start to nudge it around with my arrow keys and just make sure that I can see my background, my circle there. Remember our zoom tool, we can zoom in on it now. Just isolate that circle, get nice and close. You can see the outline, which is you want. You're going to cut that out afterwards, so it's okay that it bleeds outside of that line there. Okay, so I'm going to make a smiley face on this thing, and so I'm going to go to my next layer because I'm doing something different. I'm going to name it, so double click on the layer name, and I'm going to name this button 2. I'm going to call this eyes, and I'm just going to click out. And now I've got my button 2 layer eyes, and here we are with that. So button 2 eyes, I'm going to select that layer. I'm going to draw another circle. I'm going to make that circle fill with black. No stroke for this example. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just draw my eyes. Holding shift gives me a perfect circle. If I want more ellipsy shape, I can do that as well. Let's say I like this ellipsy shape. So I've deselected it like this, select it like this. That's the selection tool. Deselect, select. I like this circle, this oval eye looking thing. So I'm going to press Control C to copy it, and then I'm going to press Control V to paste it. Now I've got the exact same eyeballs. They're identical, and I like the way that those look. So bam, those are my eyes. I'm going to go inside here, and I'm going to grab a polygon tool. A polygon tool, you can go ahead and start drawing it. Looks something like this. And I'm going to start changing the size of that polygon tool. Uh-oh, what did I do wrong? I didn't give it a new layer. I'm drawing my mouth with my eye layer, so that's okay. I'm going to select this, and I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to go ahead and go to layer 8, change it to button 2 mouth. No big deal. On the button 2 mouth, I'm going to now go back to my polygon, and I'm going to draw a polygon here. I'm going to stretch it out, make a funny mouth shape. Selection tool, that's where I can move it around, and I'm going to put my mouth here. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so now I've got eyes and a mouth. Now I want to put a tongue on it, so I'm going to do something new. I'm going to create a new layer, layer 9. I'm going to name it button 2 mouth, or sorry, tongue. Tongue, just like that. So I've got my layer for tongue, and what I'd like to do is I'm going to show you now. We have 2 different pens. We have a pen tool, and we have a curved pen tool. This is a curvature tool. Okay, so with a pen tool, you're only really going to want this pen tool here. With this pen tool, what I can do is I can, first we'll change the properties. We'll make our stroke red, and we're going to turn fill off for this. We're just going to take fill off. Stroke is going to be the thickness of the pen. I can change that thickness based here. I like a 2-point for this, and I'm just going to show you over here in the white space what that does. I'm going to click once, and then I'm going to drag my mouse and click again, and I'm going to drag my mouse and click again, and here you can see I can create a different shape like that. That's a shape that I've created. Once I press the selection tool, it locks all of this in as one shape, and when I go and try and move this around, it moves around the whole shape for me. Just click on the path and move it around. You're not going to be able to click in here. You're not going to be able to click out here. With the selection tool on an actual line, that's when you're going to be able to move it around and do what you need to do with it. I don't like this as a shape of a tongue, but that's okay. Let's say I drew the outline in red, the stroke in red, but I actually do want to fill it. I can go ahead and I can click fill, and I can pick whatever color I like to fill it with. But again, this is not what I want. So I'm going to select this shape and I'm going to press delete on the keyboard and delete it. I'm still on my tongue layer, but I'm going to use the curvature tool now. So what I'm going to do here is, with my tongue layer selected, I'm going to got this thing here, I'm going to delete that. I'm going to use the curvature tool, and this works a little bit differently. So this time I'm going to press and hold, and I can start creating curved shapes, and you can see how wherever I click it starts to fill in. Now that looks like a pretty good tongue design to me. Remember, I can't move it. I'm on the selection tool. I can't move it over here, but I can here. And look at that beautiful shaped tongue. I think that's a great shaped tongue. So with the curvature tool, I just started pressing, clicking, click, click, click. If you don't like a click, Control Z will take a step backwards. It gets a little funny because I've got my fill turned on, but I wanted to show you how that looks. How's that? That's a funny looking tongue. Maybe I like this tongue better. I'm going to delete this tongue. I'm going to move this tongue in its place. That's a much better funny looking tongue to me. So that's my tongue layer, but I'd like to add just a little bit of a line on it. So I'm going to go back to my shapes, go to a line segment. My line is going to be black, so I want no fill, but I do want a stroke. And I want a little bit of a thicker line, a 2-point line. Remember, any of this can be changed after you draw it. So if I don't like the thickness of it after, I can go ahead and change it. But this is going to be just like a little line on my tongue. Let's select off of here. Yeah, it is a little thick, so I'm going to select it, go to my Properties tab, and just lower the thickness of that line. 0.75. Take a look. That's a little bit better. That looks like my tongue sticking out face here, and I really, really like that face there. So I encourage you to play with all of those tools that I've talked about. You can play with text. Again, all of the things that you need to know are properties and layers. Make sure you've got the right layer and make sure you've got the right properties selected. Only properties you're going to really need are stroke and fill. And if you have questions outside of that, I can definitely help you and answer those for you. Okay, I'm going to actually rotate this tongue just a little bit, just to go like that, just like that. Blah. That means I've got to move this line a little bit. I'm going to do a little rotate, and I'm going to move this line a little bit here, just like that, like that. Blah. All right, so you're going to draw 6 full buttons, and one of them is going to be a button that you use. So I'd like you to just play with those and have some fun.